right, joining me now to get into some best bets for week 9 of the NFL season and to discuss some of the top storylines around the league is our guy from the 3 and Out podcast, John Middlekauff. John, how you making out today?
I'm cold. I haven't. Yeah, I've missed every bet that I have
Ooh.
placed cash on over the last 2 weeks, and a big reason why I've been hammering these underdogs, and the favorites are rolling right now.
Yeah, they cleaned up there in week 8. It was an ugly week, a lot of blowouts in week 8. We're going to discuss one of those in particular here momentarily. But first, let's get into this. The trade deadline coming up next Tuesday, November 4th. I feel like we've seen a lot more trade activity in the NFL over the past couple seasons. Who do you think some of the bigger names are that could be on the move?
Well, I think the first thing you always do is look at the bad teams, right? And you look at teams that potentially could get blown up. The Titans don't even have a coach. So, yeah, I think you would go right to Jeffrey Simmons. There have been some back and forth. He's not available. He is available. I mean, I think what's the point at this time to not entertain if you can get multiple second day picks for the guy? I don't know if the Jets have that much to give. And, the Cardinals would be a team to keep an eye on, but like, who are they giving up? Like Kyler Murray, who would want him, relative based on the money. It's not like they're trading Trey McBride or Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe Buda Baker, but safety's the value. To me, the one wild card, and I just looked, they're on a bye this week, is A.J. Brown. And they're not just going to give him away because they don't it's not bad enough where it's fracturing the locker room or anything. But I think we can all acknowledge it's a bizarre situation. And now it's the Giants, and their secondary they're playing six stringers at this point in time. But the offense looked pretty good. And I think the only question you ask, because the division is now over, right? Washington's in shambles. If you look at who they're playing the next couple weeks, they're done. Dallas, I mean, their defense is just terrible, and the Giants are awful. So the Eagles don't even need to worry about winning their division. It's just about seeding. So you just ask yourself, can we win the NFC and compete for a Super Bowl without A.J. Brown while, getting the Patriots to give us 2-2s and kind of reset on the fly? Now, I don't know if they're going to do it, but I would think that they are, having long conversations over the next couple of days of what are our options? And who knows, they could use that then to add someone else. I mean, that's kind of how Howie, he's much more like an NBA or a Major League Baseball GM that way. Because historically, he'd be like, never trade them. And they've said, they don't intend to. But after last week, and you see Jalen kind of humming, I don't know. I just think these are conversations that you have to have again for you're not giving him away at a discount. So, but if you could get 2-2s for an older player, because the other thing, the team that's getting him, he's if you're the Patriots, you get a guy under contract for a couple years, right? So it's not a 1-year rental. To me, he's the wild card.
Is this a thing for Brown though, where if you were advising him, you might be like, dude, you got to stop and smell the roses here, have a little bit of perspective, given the situation that you're in, the defending Super Bowl champions, you're getting paid pretty good money. To me, it just seems a little bit ridiculous that he's so unhappy.
Yeah, wide receivers just like that though. I mean, we saw it for a long time with Diggs. Remember when Diggs had the breakup with Minnesota? They were good. I remember it was 2019. I went to watch them play the 49ers in a playoff game. I mean, it was I think it was the second round. They had just beat the Saints. I mean, and he was yapping. And then he goes to the Bills. He's playing with Josh Allen, one of the best players of the generation. So I think it's just nature of their position. The other thing is, if you're AJ and it does get entertained, think the teams that would trade for him would be like the Patriots or the Bills, right? It'd be other good teams. It's not like
That's fair.
the Cardinals or the Dolphins or something. So he'd be going to another good situation. I actually think, listen, I'm not saying the percentage chance is high, but I would say A.J. Brown and Jeffrey Simmons, you would think Vrabel and the Patriots, would be sniffing around. Because at this point in time, their schedule is their biggest advantage, right? Their schedule is pretty bad. Now, granted, the Bills is not easy or not hard as well, but they do all of a sudden the Bills lose this game at home to the Chiefs. I think we'd just be like, well, they've played a couple good teams and they've lost those games. The Patriots can win this division. And all of a sudden, football is not, you're not having to play the Dodgers. All of a sudden you get into the dance. It's one game situations. Look at Washington last year. Found yourself in the NFC Championship game.
Okay, so we have probably, I don't know, five, six, seven really bad teams in the NFL
Oh,
this season, but I think maybe the most unserious team might be the Atlanta Falcons. One week, they're in prime time, having a really good week in Minnesota, or, one of the best games they played in a very long time, a couple Sundays ago against Buffalo. Then other weeks they're getting shut out by the Panthers or stomped by the Miami Dolphins. What is preventing this team that has a lot of talent and ability from turning a corner here, John?
well, I think we have to acknowledge once they hired Raheem Morris and he got together with the GM, they made catastrophic mistakes at quarterback. They gave, if you think about it, they gave $90 million over the course of 2 years to Kirk Cousins. If you look around the league, non quarterbacks, that amount of money is going to like Justin Jefferson, Watt, Garrett, Bosa, Micah Parsons, like the best players in the league. That's how much they gave to Kirk Cousins. It blew up in their face. I mean, he wasn't good last year. And then this year, clearly, it's just over. And then they drafted a guy in the top 10 at that position who I liked him a lot at Washington, but it hasn't gone really well. Now, he has a short sample size because he only played a couple games last year. And then this year, he's already injured. Well, I have a lot of buddies that scouted the NFL. There were not a lot of people that I knew that had high grades on him. Now, I actually, as like, a podcaster fan, was higher on him than them. But they go, John, he's been injured a lot in college, and he plays on an absolutely loaded team with at the time at Washington, they won, I think it's called I forget the name of it, the Joe Moore Award or something, the best offensive line in the league. He didn't get touched, and he's playing with Rome. He's playing with McMillan. He's playing with Polk. He had 3 NFL wide receivers. Now, we can dispute how good a couple of them are, but McMillan's good, and obviously Rome and Dunze's good. And he had Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb calling plays. So I think he has a huge downgrade in play calling. His offensive line this year is banged up, and their quarterback play is atrocious. And then there's just, listen, the best part about the NFL is it's like I call it Wall Street on grass. That even if you're not meant to be the head coach, if you're the number two, meaning you're a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, that job pays millions of dollars. And some people are just destined to be coordinators, not head coaches. Just like some people are destined to be position coaches, not coordinators. Even position coaches, running back coaches make like 700 grand. So it's a great profession to work in financially. And I think Raheem Morris is clearly a guy that's just in over his head. As a head coach, as a coordinator, he's awesome. The Shanahan crew, they love him. I mean, I think if he's available, he's one of the top defensive coordinators on the market. He's great with players. Hell, he can coach offense. But when it comes to being a head coach, like, and in fair, if I wanted to defend Raheem Morris a little bit too, it's kind of the organization's a joke. They got Rich McKay, who has that classic job of like, I'm not running football, but I'm in charge. I run the owner's trust. I've been a football guy before. I meddle. I got this GM who blamed everything on Arthur Smith. It's like, well, if Arthur Smith is to blame, isn't this guy to blame? And I just think the team's poorly built. They kind of had that stretch where it was what was the guy's name? Matt Millen, when he built the Lions back in the day. I was like, should they be drafting all these skill guys? you know,
They kept taking
and and
receivers.
and then this year they go over the top, right? They draft multiple pass rushers in the first round. They trade a future first round pick. Do the Rams have their future first round pick? I mean, that's I mean, I'm a Niner guy. That's a problem. I mean, that pick could get higher and higher. All of a sudden, it's like, wait, the Rams have the 10th pick in the draft and the 28th? Like, the Rams are going to have a higher pick potentially with their 2 picks than the Cowboys with their 2 picks. Think about that.
Wow. Yeah, Kyle Pitts was supposed to be the next Antonio Gates. That has not worked out very well for
But
them.
he's a good example. Like I watched him when they played the Niners a couple weeks ago. It was like this guy's kind of an intriguing player, but you have to again. He shouldn't have been drafted fourth, clearly, but he's going to go. You watch next year. All of a sudden, it's like he's on the Ravens, or he's on the Chiefs, or he's with McVay, or he's with Shanahan, or he's with LaFleur. It's like I kind of like this guy now. You watch. That is 100% going to happen. Playing for like $6 million.
Okay, so speaking of that game against the Dolphins, I'm watching the two quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Tua, and I'm thinking these guys are getting paid a lot of money. And I think other
Wow.
guys that you group into that category, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, non-elite guys that a lot of people would call mid, I guess you would say. Uh, is that period of non-elite quarterbacks getting these massive contracts? Do you think that's done because of all these guys kind of backfiring in this spot?
I mean, this guy's proven more than those guys, but like Purdy got, close to $200 million. I think let's use baseball as an example because we're watching the World Series. Like when Shohei Ohtani or Vladimir Guerrero get five, six, $700 million, or some of these star pitchers get $400 million. Like it's a lot of money, but like, hey, this guy's the best player in the sport. And then there's the mid-tier guy that sometimes signs for like $140 million. So he's still super rich, but he's not getting their money. Football kind of lost that concept when it came to quarterback play. Like Brock Purdy's a great example. Like I like Brock Purdy. If I was Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, I understand why they like him. Why couldn't he sign like a 4-year, $140 million contract? Why does it have to be like these other guys? He's not like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, or Patrick Mahomes. And speaking of those other guys, they all kept comparing to those contracts. You're not in those guys' category, right? Just because I'm also a pro golfer doesn't mean I'm Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson. And I think the NFL got all out of whack. And look at the guys you just listed. Their organizations are in shambles because early on, the cap number is relatively small. But as we go a couple years in, their cap number gets bigger. So more pressure's on them. And let's face it, Trevor Lawrence just isn't that accurate of a passer. Obviously, Tua has had an atrocious season beside the game he just had. But, it just, he should be making. And what's wrong with this? Yeah, he's making $28 million instead of 50. And we just kind of lost touch with that. I mean, even Dak Prescott, actually, Dak Prescott be making $60 million relative to his status at his position. And I don't know the fix to it because I keep saying like, when's this going to change? And it's not only not changed, they keep doubling down on it. Now, Kyler Murray was like, why did you pay him after 3 years? That was insane.
That was silly.
But the Trevor Lawrence thing was it was like they were trying to validate, like we told you this guy was the next luck, number one overall pick. It's like you just gave a guy $200 million. Like that's I mean, what is if there was no pressure with quarterback, they were just like any other position. What's he worth on the open market? $20 million a year? I mean, truly, like that's kind of his value. And again, I'm not acting like the guy should be a second string quarterback,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you said, "Hey, I got Trevor Lawrence on a 3-year, $60 million deal," I'd be like, "Oh, sounds about right." But those deals just do not exist, do they?
No, it's I mean, what's Sam Darnold making? 33 million. I think that worked out average per year for the 3-year contract he signed, or 3 or 4 years that he signed with the
And
Seahawks. So I think that
but
would
to
be
me,
the
I always
model.
look at the guaranteed. Like I think his guaranteed was like under 60. It's like
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence got 200 guaranteed and Sam Darnold got under 60. There is not a GM in the NFL, including the Jags guys. Now, granted, they're not the ones that did that contract that would
Yeah.
take Trevor Lawrence over Sam Darnold. Or Baker Mayfield's another guy. I think he's making like $28 million. He's
Yeah.
way better player than these guys.
Okay, the New York Giants, they were fun for about 3 or 4 weeks, but the hits keep on coming. Cam Scadaboo joins Malik Neighbors out for the season. A team can be as gritty and as scrappy as they want to be, but they're running out of guys here, John. So the second half shaping up to be pretty ugly for them. The only really bad team they have on their schedule in the second half is the Raiders. They got the 49ers this week. They got games versus the Packers, Lions, Patriots here in the second half. 2-6 now. It's looking like another 5-win season probably for the Giants. You think Brian Daboll is going to get another shot at head coach going into 2026?
Before Scadaboo shattered his ankle, which was tough to watch. I mean, I kind of looked down for a split second, and I looked up, and Dart was screaming at the sideline, and I was like, "Who's on the ground? Is that Scadaboo?" Uh, thank God for Big Dom, who took him some food in the hospital.
Some
But
pizza.
I did support. A couple weeks ago, I'm like, listen, the head coach was the guy that pounded the table for this player. The player looks good. Like I give Dayball a lot of credit for Jackson Dart, the Scadaboo momentum. It was just there was something real there. Now I don't know how many games they were going to win with that crew. Still might have won 6 games, but it was like okay, I would give these guys another shot. Let the head coach, coach this player. With Scadaboo out, it could get really ugly. And they went from being a fun little upstart, just scrappy team to I could see them being really, really tough to watch. And the problem is we're not even to November. So meaning we got 2 months of football, 9 or 10 games of just potentially of them losing basically all of them and some of them being really, really ugly. And it's just hard to overcome that. And I know the owners, battling some health issues. Uh, but it's just New York. Both these teams are going to lose so many. It's just going to be so negative and so ugly that I think it's going to be really, really hard to just draw the line and tune it out if you're the decision makers to not fire everybody. But it is pretty risky. Like you're the one bright spot you have in your organization. Because if you were choosing between the two Jets or the Giants, like if you wanted a GM or a coach to take over, you would 100% take the Giants because at least they have some hope with the quarterback, who, let's face it, you would not trade straight up Jackson Dart for Cam Ward. Think about that today,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So, and that just shows you like how weird and inexact science that the draft is. But I mean, it's just I just think this thing's Kayvon Thibodeau's another guy that like could they trade him in the next week? But the problem is he makes like $15 million next year because they picked up his 5th-year option, so that kind
Yeah.
of limits the value. Yeah, I would say Dayball is gonna be in major trouble, which kind of makes me sad because I think this whole thing then could get you just kind of get in that hamster wheel of dysfunction with the new coach coming in.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because if they bring him back, they might be at right back at this exact same point next season where they have a losing record, approaching the halfway point of the season and it becoming a lost season. So it'll be
I,
interesting to see
I
what they do.
we're gonna talk about I think the Steeler game, but listen, I thought it was going to be impossible for them not to win the division. Now you look, I mean, Thursday night, all of a sudden the Ravens win, and if they lose on Sunday, this if Tomlin doesn't win the division this year, like what are we doing at this point? I do think that it would be they're going to be very, I would say, hesitant to fire anybody clearly, but
Yeah.
just time for a mutual divorce. And to me, the Giants would be all over Mike Tomlin, right? So if you get like Mike Tomlin then with an Arthur Smith or a Mike McDaniel, a real coach to
Ooh.
coach up Jackson Dart, I do think Giants fans can be like, okay, we can move on from Dable.
Yeah, that'd be a good combo for sure. Okay, let's get into a couple best bets here. Let's start with a couple teams coming off of wins here last week. Should be a good defensive matchup between Denver and Houston with the Texans at home. Denver's a short dog plus 1.5 points, and you like them to cover.
Well, I do think a lot of people, and myself included, were like, God, CJ Stroud looked excellent. The 49ers defense, Bryce Huff, who just had an awesome game the previous week against the Atlanta Falcons, pulled his hamstring in that game and didn't play. And he's really their only like kind of edge pass rusher. They had no pass rush. And their defensive line is full of guys with like clubs on their hand. Well, if your defensive line's in shambles, you can't take advantage of Houston's terrible offensive line. Well, who can take advantage of that? The Denver Broncos. And you've watched CJ Stroud. I mean, look at the Seattle game. Just under siege. They couldn't do anything. This is a bad matchup for Houston. And I know everyone's like, God, CJ Stroud looked awesome. Well, yeah, the 49ers are playing second and third stringers all over the place, but specifically on defensive line. That is not going to be the case this week. So if you just look at it from a matchup standpoint, sometimes we just, as the season goes on, we're like, this team's good, this team's bad. To me, this is an awful matchup for Houston.
Okay, the Minnesota Vikings, let's not sugarcoat it, John. They might be completely fucked. JJ McCarthy stepping in at quarterback for them this week. Spreads between them and the Lions have been a lot tighter than this in recent seasons. We had the Lions coming off their bye. They're favored by 8.5 points. 11-2 against the spread in the last 13 games after a bye. Since Brian Flores took over as defensive coordinator as of the Vikings, 30 points in 4 straight games for the Lions against them. I like the Lions this week, and you like the Lions too as a 8.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I haven't taken a big favorite in a couple weeks, and this one feels right for the taking. Uh, Carson Wentz, who clearly was playing with like his body barely connected the last couple weeks, you could argue is proven even injured to be a better player than JJ McCarthy. Their offensive line's in shambles. They have no momentum coming in. Like you said, defensively, they're getting shredded. I just think this is an awful spot. One, just for Minnesota. And then you factor in what if their quarterback situation gets even worse? And that is on the table. I know we haven't seen much of this player, but in his 8 quarters of his career, 7 of them were atrocious. And now he's playing the Lions in Detroit. You would say, actually, kind of an easy spot. He's kind of a Michigan hero, but that place is going to be rocking for the Lions. Uh, I listen. I'm not rooting. I don't root for any quarterback to fail because anyone in this business, like we watch a lot of football. I want to watch good players. I think this thing could get really, really bad. And it could be so bad that by the end of the season, you start asking yourself, like, how are we going to pivot? And there's a chance JJ McCarthy is the Vikings Trey Lance. Because when you go to a high end team as a young quarterback, you don't get to just be like Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence. Like the games don't matter. Every pass matters. And like the pressure in this game is going to be immense. And all of a sudden they lose. Kind of feels like their season could start falling apart. I mean, you could argue it already is.
I agree. Okay, must-win game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's fair to say. They are taking on a Colts team that is not slowing down. The Steelers are a 3-point underdog, and you're going to get behind them this week, John.
Well, this is I feel like Mike Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steeler career is on the line this week. Because if they
Wow.
lose this game, that's back-to-back weeks. So they've lost to Seattle, they've lost to Green Bay. Now they're losing to Indy. They can't beat any good teams. And I didn't agree with the odds a couple weeks ago, but maybe I'm the idiot. And all of a sudden, like they're not winning the division. And let's face it, like offensively, I know they signed MVS today. They have one wide receiver and like 7 tight ends out there. Like this is not a sustainable offense. And I know Jalen Warren was pulling soccer goals to make himself stronger, and I like the player, but they're treating him like he's Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. Like their running game's kind of and defensively they're getting shredded. So it's like, okay, I gave him a little bit of pass, short week on the road. They couldn't sack Flacco really. It's like, okay, well, now they get a long break. They're gonna be awesome. Jordan Love didn't get sacked one time. He only got pressured a couple times, and he made him pay on those plays. So this is a circle spot for Tomlin's career. Because if he loses this game, I think their season is in major jeopardy. Look last season. Where did they fall apart as the weather changed, right? Well, what happens when the weather changes this year and it gets cold? Their quarterback's 41 years old. So it's like, and they've got pretty good play out of him early in the season. You think he's going to be awesome when it's 25 degrees outside and you can't run the ball? So this is a respect spot for Tomlin. I took him last week because that's a classic Tomlin dog at home. This is if he stops losing these dogs at home, this has run its course, right? And I just think if he doesn't win this game, and if you tell me the Ravens win on Thursday, if the Bengals were to win, I think they host the Bears this week.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, is he going to not win this division? And if you don't win this is a one team division, right?
Yeah.
This is not 9-8 probably wins it.
Yeah, and it does seem like a one-year experiment here for the Steelers because they had an uncharacteristic offseason where they're bringing in Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey. Seems like a one-year type of thing. So yeah, we'll see if they can rebound here.
And I would
The
say this: it's not even. I'm putting a lot of it on Tomlin. They had a GM, Kevin Colbert, who retired a couple years ago, and Omar Khan, the longtime kind of like cap guy, is taking over. They don't feel the same these last couple years as they did, even when they weren't winning playoff games. They felt like they had a little more pop to them. And you're
Yeah.
watching them, you're like, this DK Metcalf thing, I get it, but it's like you're paying him $150 million. He's not, for a guy that's put up a lot of stats and had some incredible plays. He's not Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson where he's just taking over week in, week out. That's not really his thing.
Yeah, I put him in probably the tier or a
Yeah.
tier below those
Honestly,
guys for sure.
you would like him to be with like another high end guy. Like he was with Lockett for a long time. So it's like I get my 80 catches, 10 touchdowns, but you don't get to just ride me for months on end. And the Steelers don't have a choice because he's their only wide receiver.
Okay, before we let you go, we got to get your thoughts on the biggest game of the week. The Kansas City Chiefs are back. The version of the team now much different than the version we saw in September. The Buffalo Bills had a pretty good bounce back after the bye. They were playing the Panthers, but they beat the living shit out of them. So the last 8 games between these teams, John, 4 have been in the regular season, 4 have been in the playoffs. The Bills have won all 4 regular season games. The Chiefs have won all 4 playoff games. The Bills are an underdog at home here. They have won and covered in 4 straight games as a home underdog. Doesn't happen often. That's going back to 2020. What do you make of this year's matchup?
The Chiefs have a lot of momentum coming in, and I think losing some of the regular season games is going to be a pretty big deal for them to kind of get up for this game. They have a bye after this week. So I think you're going to get, yesterday, once they kind of took control of that weird Monday night game, they were able to just kind of settle in. Uh, their offense looks I mean, Rashee Rice is a legitimate high end player. To go with Marquise Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelsey looks rejuvenated,
Yeah.
life of a tight end. I mean, all the running backs, Pacheco, Hunt, the rookie Smith. The Chiefs win this game, Mahomes is going to win the MVP because his odds have been, you're like, is this guy really? And then you watch the last couple weeks, and then his momentum. I just think that you'll look up and they're going to be a 13-win team. I like the Chiefs this week. I think the Bills, uh, listen, the Panther game was a joke, but you just watch their defense. And what was a story that just came out yesterday that Ed Oliver has a serious like pec or tore something. He's out for foreseeable future. I mean, he's a high end stud for them. I just think the Chiefs got a little like sometimes maybe you start feeling yourself, you get a little content. All of a sudden, you're 0-2. You get some players back. They look fantastic, and offensively, they look like a juggernaut. I think the Chiefs. This is a kitchen sink game for them. I think with the bye week coming up, I would expect some trick plays, some just a lot of stuff they've kind of been holding back because I mean, that Washington team, it took some weird interceptions for that game even to be kind of muddled. The Mariota, they never had a chance ever.
Kansas City Chiefs once again favored to win the Super Bowl, and if they do make it to the Super Bowl again, people outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans are absolutely gonna hate it. But hey,
Why
that's,
I think the biggest nightmare for people is like I could see Denver, like splitting against them, winning the division.
yeah.
So Denver hosts, but the Chiefs, like in the first round, have to play if you're like the Colts or one of these teams, and you're like, we drew these guys, right? It's just like as the 4-5 matchup, it could be a battered Ravens team or who knows the Bengals. So they would be the most dangerous 5 seed in the history of the league.
Yeah, I'm guessing people would be pretty eager to bet on Patrick Mahomes versus Daniel Jones in a playoff game, but we shall see how things shake up here
Yeah.
in the second half of the season. Okay,
In
John.
fair, the Colts look good. The Colts look good.
Oh yeah, they're not taking their foot off the gas. Okay, John, we will leave it at that for today, though. Thank you as always for joining. Best of luck with all your bets this weekend, and we'll catch you again next week.
See ya.